We are going to talk about the 2025 Oscars ceremony. It's coming up this Sunday. Even though no one cares about it, I think we'd be remiss not to mention the anticipation. I think it's what all theater kids have been looking forward to ever since last year. And as far as I can tell, they're paying most attention to Oscar bait movies and not the movies that people actually enjoyed last year. The current top contenders for Best Picture are Anora, a movie about a prostitute stripper abuse victim, and Conclave, a movie about a transsexual pope. Like, yes. That's unironically what we're talking about right now.
By the way,
this is like beyond Oscar bait.
We put a poll up today. We said who deserves the best picture or the best picture, the stripper or the trans pope. Right now, the stripper is winning with 76% of the vote.
I would unironically vote for Anora over Conclave just because of the absolute flagrant disrespect that they showed to the Catholic Church, but that's my personal opinion. I didn't see either of them because I don't care for pretentious art nerd garbage. Yeah. And that's what these award ceremonies are all about.
So what is it you do? Like we all know me. I don't like the pretentious art nerd garbage. Give me the explosions, give me the slop. Mm-hmm. Like, what is your sweet spot for like entertainment? I mean, I know you like reality TV.
Well, I think that as far as movies go, it needs to be somewhere in between. Like, I'm fine with it having a narrow focus and being kind of quirky, as long as it doesn't get too self-indulgent and doesn't have themes that are just straight up evil.
Okay.
But I don't know if I could pull up any example just off the top of my head.
Like, I can't think of
like, I really like Sofia Coppola movies.
Okay.
That's, like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of niche that isn't just, abuse porn and isn't satanic.
Pulls the reins back on it a little bit, but explores the themes maybe, but doesn't go full bore.
Yeah.
Like,
something that just has its charms and isn't slop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I hope that makes sense. That it just strikes a balance between slop and art garbage.
I think one of the hardest parts for that, though, is like for the stuff that you love, it doesn't get the press.
No,
the art garbage gets the press. The slop gets the press. Yeah. Everything else, you got to go digging for the articles about that stuff. And it's not even to the detriment of the places that are writing about these things. It's still a business. They need to make money. And writing about, mid-tier movies that got a small budget but have interesting ideas, there is a weird lack of interest in covering stuff like that because it's just not going to make them their money back.
Right. Another nominee for Best Picture is Emilia Perez, a streaming movie made for Netflix starring a trans actor named Carla Gascon. And there's been a huge controversy brewing around this star, given that old tweets resurfaced saying hateful comments about Muslims and weirdly like tweets that seemed to admire Hitler. There was a lot of spicy stuff that was discovered. And now Carla Gascon is kind of getting shunned by members of the Academy as well as Netflix executives who don't really want to shed light on the situation. One of the anonymous Oscars voters that gave an interview to Variety said, "It was a fine year for movies, but it's accurate to say Emilia Perez was the worst of the Best Picture nominees." Now, some of them are saying, I'm not voting for it because it was bad. Others are saying, I'm not voting for it because I hate the actor
who said these
problematic things. And then others are saying, it should only be the movie that counts. And you should have like some kind of intellectual integrity in actually watching everything. But the funny thing is, there's like a little less than 10,000 voters in the Academy who are eligible. There's a low participation rate. So they say somewhere between 30 and 70% of the eligible voters even participate. And even among that pool of voters, there's no system in place for proving that you actually watched any of this shit.
Well, they said that it has two-factor authentication now.
Only
on your
so
phone.
that you're identifying yourself. yourself,
Yes.
not that you're authenticating the fact that you watched any of the movies. So you could be voting entirely based on vibes and personal prejudice and payola, and there's no system in place to stop it. And that's a huge reason why people aren't paying attention. We're also coming up on the last handful of broadcasts of the Oscar ceremony that will be on ABC. And as the ratings for these shows have continued plummeting over the years, it's a question about whether Disney will still think it's worth it to broadcast this event in the future. Less and less people care. And we're so beyond the point where anyone other than a very niche group of theater kids care.
This whole thing is subsidized. This is subsidized
Yeah.
through all their other projects. They have to do it. It's part of the, like, this industry is very insular, and they don't take kindly to outsiders, and they love to pat themselves on the back.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. As I always say, there's a women's summit going on somewhere. There's some women in power luncheon that's being had right now with mini quiches and wine. And that's because it's subsidized by these businesses. Now, back in the day, they would have said, like, it was part of their budget, whether it's activist outreach or it's good for their marketing or promotion. But really, they that's all true. But they also love to reward themselves and pat themselves on the back. And the bad people in the industry can be like, look, how bad could I be? I sponsored a women's summit this year. Of course I love Hollywood. I sponsor, I'm part of the Oscars luncheon.
Damn, I could really go for a glass of wine and a mini quiche right now. I mean, I could just dig into that. I wanted to offer a little fun fact because I wasn't aware of this. I was like, why are they called the Oscars? Apparently the term originated in the 1930s, coined by a former Academy librarian, Margaret Herrick, who remarked that the statuette of the award resembled her uncle Oscar. And I guess it just stuck after that point. And now it's the official name. More on Carla Gascon, though. The CEO of the Academy, Bill Kramer, did an interview with The Hollywood Reporter where he addressed a number of controversies surrounding the event, including Carla Gascon's tweets turning into a media firestorm. Here he said, "The Academy does not condone hate speech. I want to be very clear about that. Carla's nomination is historic." He's referring to the fact that Carla Gascon is the very first trans actor nominated for an Oscar, period. That's really important. She's still a nominee. We honor that, but we do not condone hate speech. All nominees are invited to attend the show. That stands. If Carla joins us for the night, I hope there is an air of respect. We have over 200 nominees. The night is about much more than just one person. We are there to celebrate all of our nominees. And they also went on to ask him about the looming presence of DEI requirements on Oscar nominations and what makes a project eligible, as those standards have been continually changing. And also, in this new era of the death of DEI, is this tenable? So they say they're asking him how the Academy, which requires films to meet inclusion standards to be eligible, is reacting to the Trump administration's crackdown on DEI initiatives. He says, "Our commitment to equity, inclusion, diversity, sustainability, and accessibility," that's way more than just the original acronym, "is embedded throughout all of our programs. How we collect our Academy collections, how we curate and program our museum, how we work with membership to invite new members. And I think you're seeing it in how our members watch and vote as part of the Oscars. It's how we build our staff. It's who we are as an organization. We receive very little money from the federal government, which I used to bemoan. They should receive $0 of the federal government's funds. Can Elon Musk actually get on that immediately?
If you were wondering what those requirements are,
They're very convoluted.
It's the Academy Aperture 2025 standards. They put this into place in like 2023, but then it didn't it didn't start until 2025. Standards for on-screen representation, themes and narratives, creative leadership and project team, industry access and opportunities, audience development. So from what I understand, they have to like nail two of these categories, but not all of them. Yeah. And usually where you're going to see it is industry access and opportunities and leadership and project team. because that allows them more freedom up here.
Yes.
With the on-screen, because everybody thought that it was going to be, all the leads were going to start looking like a diversity brochure.
That's what it sounds like.
But that's not the case.
But in reality, they're just going to be doing diversity initiatives behind the scenes on.
And it says these standards only apply to Best Picture eligibility.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was actually not a sweeping
No.
regulation change that they made. It's not as severe as people may think.
But
it's
the fact
also
they
about
did
the
it at all.
perception, and it's the fact that they did it at all that shows they're out of touch. They also asked him if there are any plans to get rid of gendered categories like Best Actor or Actress. And they want to know if they're going to follow in the footsteps of the Gotham and Spirit Awards in making genderless lead categories. There are no plans to do so. However, we're always in conversation with our actors branch and awards committee about this specific topic, but we're not making any changes around that anytime soon.
Yeah.
So even the fact that it's like a question is just insane to me. Like, you could just shut it down. It doesn't need to be an ongoing conversation. We're way past that point.
Yeah.
They asked him about artificial intelligence, which is just boring.
I mean, that's another one of those ones that Hollywood likes the AI discussion because it allows them to signal on something that has almost no pushback. Because even somebody like me who laughs at them because of how they talk about it, I still I understand that it's not like I'm going to be like, go AI.
Yeah. And you know what? There is a certain type of pretentiousness that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Especially from someone like Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, see,
I know we don't care about the Oscars, but we care about the Razzies.
I mean, we do have that from Francis Ford Coppola, who did win this year for worst director in Hollywood.
For Megalopolis, which I didn't see.
Megaflopolis.
It was a Megaflopolis. A lot of people said that it was poorly done, but others liked it. He replied to his win on Instagram. The fact that this man even has an Instagram is a crime, but he said, "I'm thrilled to accept the Razzie in so many important categories for Megalopolis and for the distinctive honor of being nominated as the worst director, worst screenplay, and worst picture at a time when so few have the courage to go against the prevailing trends of contemporary movie making. In this wreck of a world today, where art is given scores as if it were professional wrestling,
Hey!
I chose...
Shut the fuck up! You leave professional wrestling alone!
I chose to not follow the gutless rules laid down by an industry so terrified of risk that despite the enormous pool of young talent at its disposal, may not create pictures that will be relevant and alive 50 years from now. What an honor to stand alongside a great and courageous filmmaker like Jacques Tati, who impoverished himself completely to make one of cinema's most beloved failures, Playtime. My sincere thanks to all my brilliant colleagues who joined me to make our work of art, and let us remind ourselves that box office is only about money, and like war, stupidity and politics has no true place in our future."
I will give him one benefit of the doubt here, and that's the fact that he basically financed his $120 million movie himself. My main complaint when the artists get really uppity is when they start complaining. I'm like, look, you're not paying for it, dude.
Yeah, they're on Daddy Warner Brothers money.
I know it's the pettiest thing in the world, but every time David Zaslav cancels something, I'm like, yeah, go off, king. I know that makes me a bad person in a lot of ways. I don't care. It's hilarious because there is nothing more. And I understand. I understand that a lot of the times, over-involvement from the studios leads to just absolute garbage. It's 110% true. However, there is nothing more annoying than somebody who's creating art with somebody else's money feeling solely entitled to the way the project is supposed to come out. I know I'm playing both sides here, but it's stupid, and I laugh every time David Zaslav cancels something. Look, Warner Brothers is down. They didn't exactly have a great quarter, so it's not like he's doing the best work right now. Slash the budget, my friend. I get it, but I can't help it. I laugh whenever they're like, oh, they should have just leave the project be. I'm like, yeah, sure. You can do that when you fund it yourself. It's why I actually have more respect for people who create their own content and go into work for themselves, right? Nobody, like, they took a risk on their own to make their own stuff. And if it fails, they're out of pocket, not some studio.
Yeah. So
also, I was reading
credit where credit is due.
I was reading something the other day where they were saying, like, what they interviewed one of these executives at Netflix, and they said for all the discussion that these actors have about residuals, all of them are happy to take the upfront payments. Like, almost all of them would prefer the lump sum up front. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just the way it is.
They're expecting residuals on streaming shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's delusional. And completely unaware of the way the industry has changed.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just hope that something as exciting as the Will Smith Oscar slap happens again this time around, but it's unlikely.
Logan Paul jumps off of a barrier to give somebody an elbow.
I mean, maybe Jaden Smith can show up. Can continue the tradition.
Jaden
Slap
Smith shows
Conan
up.
O'Brien in the face.
No, it turns into like a Jaden Smith TED Talk.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Let's be real. It would be a TEDx talk.
No, he
Jaden
comes
Smith
up to
doesn't
the
rate a
stage.
TED Talk.
He's like, so Conan O'Brien is hosting. Jaden Smith bounds up to the stage, steals his microphone, and just starts a soliloquy about, I don't even know what he says.
Yeah.
He just talks nonsense and people listen.
I'm telling you, he doesn't rate a TED Talk. He could do a TEDx talk, maybe.
For sure.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.